Hello, class. Today we're going to talk about multiples in math. And one way that I think of multiples is I think often of a times table chart. This is a special tool that I have in the classroom, and I loan it out to kids that really need to work on their times tables. And so what this does is it just shows you patterns it shows you multiples, and it shows you patterns in the times table chart. So for example, if I took this little lever, which is 4, and I pushed up 4, this is going to show me all of the multiples of 4. So for example, I'm going to see, let me see if I can angle it so you can see it a little bit better. It's a little hard to see in the light. So I'm going to see that all the multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. And I could keep going. If I wanted to see all the multiples of 5, I could shift this and it would show me that I would have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, and so on. So in some ways, when we're figuring out what multiples are, one strategy for doing that is to just keep in mind that we can skip count, right? So if I had the multiples of 3, I would start out with 3 times 1, which is 3. And then if I added 3 more, I would get 6. And then if I added 3 more, I would get 9. And then if I added 3 more, I would get 12, right? So you can also use a times table chart like this one. This one's very simple, and it's going to also do the same thing for you, right? So if I looked at this chart, it's basically a multiples chart. It's showing me all the multiples of 3 right across here, right? Each row each row shows multiples of a given digit. So when we're finding multiples, it's actually really, we're doing a couple of things. We're figuring out patterns in numbers, and also we're skip counting and we're practicing our times tables. And that's why it's kind of fun to find multiples, because it's going to actually help you with your times table practice, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my paper out to do math, and you're getting your paper out too, because I like you to do math along with me. So we're getting our paper out, and we're going to fold our paper into our 3 hamburgers, right? We're going to do, here's our paper, we're going to do hamburger, hamburger, hamburger. Right, so you're folding your paper too. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look at our lesson. And remember, I'm always putting lines on my paper. You don't have to put lines on yours unless you want to. If I don't put lines on mine, you cannot see the folds. So I always just put lines on mine so that you can see the fold. Although my pen is kind of choking, it's on its last legs. It doesn't want to quite die yet, but it's close. Okay, so the lesson we're working on today, we're going to do lesson 2.3. So I'm writing my name in the corner. You're writing your name in the corner. And this lesson we're going to be working on is pages 68 to 70. And if you want to write on here multiples, if that helps you remember what we're working on, that's a good idea to do. So by the time we're done with this chapter, we should be able to find multiples of whole numbers. We should be able to find common multiples and least common multiples of two or more numbers. We talked about greatest common factor previously. Well, there is a thing called a least common multiple, or an LCM, that you're going to learn about, and you're going to use it a lot in math, especially when you're dealing with fractions. So we're going to go ahead and take a peek at this chapter. To start out, you can find a multiple of a number, just multiply that number by any whole number. What are the multiples of 3? 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9. Like I said, you can just go down this times table chart and you could say 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. So she's doing it in a very systematic way. 1 times 3 equals 3, 2 times 3 equals 6, 3 times 3 equals 9, 4 times 3 equals 12, 5 times 3 is 15, 6 times 3 is 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. So this is a listing of all the multiples of 3, right? And actually, this isn't really all the multiples of 3, because you could keep skip counting to infinity. I think you could keep going, right? You could keep skip counting all the multiples of 3. You could do 100 times 3, 101 times 3, 102 times 3, right? So when you're trying to figure out if a number is a multiple of another number, we're going to use division. So for example, if we want to know if 12 is a multiple of 3, we're going to take 12 and we're going to divide it by 3. If it goes in evenly, we know that 3 is a factor of 12, and also we know that 4 is our answer. If we want to know if is 28 a multiple of 3, we can divide 28 by 3, and we can see that, oh, there's a remainder, so that's not going to be a multiple, right? So this little activity on this page we're going to do together. We're going to do 1 through 9. And then we're going to keep going until we get to the bottom of the page with the girl that's wearing the red shirt. Okay? So if you have your math book out, that's super handy for you, because then you can see what we're doing a little bit easier than seeing it on the projector. So let's look at number 1. Number 1 is asking us, let's see if this pen will still hold out. So we're going to do 1, and we're going to go all the way through probably 9. Okay, so we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to do 8 and 9 over here. Okay. So, is 24 a multiple of 8? Well, one way to figure that out is to look on a times table chart. And if we can zoom in a little bit tighter on this. If you don't have a times table chart at home, I recommend printing one out. There are lots of them available online, and lots of them that are easy to read. So if I want to know, it says, is 24 a multiple of 8? I can go down here on my row of 8s, and I'm seeing 24. So is 24 a multiple of 8? Yes, it is a multiple of 8, because 24 times 3 is 8. So we can, on our answer, we can say that we found it out by doing this. Right? And that's what they were telling us in the beginning, is that you can use division to find out if a number is a multiple of another number. So if 24 is a multiple of 8, we should be able to divide 24 by 8. And it's going to tell us, if we use this is a division chart as well. If we use this, we go to 8, then we go to 24, then we go across to 3. We know that 8 times 3 is 24. Another way to figure that out would be to say, let's look at the multiples of 8. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24, right? So there we have it. And so that's another way to figure it out. If you're doing it this way, it's going to give you a lot of practice on your times tables, right? If you're doing it this way, it means you probably already kind of know your times tables fairly well. If you're doing it this way, it means that you're just wanting to be a speed demon and you just want to hurry through it. There's nothing wrong with either of the three methods, right? This method, however, is going to give you some really strong, awesome times table practice, which some of you might need. Now, number 2 says, is 42 a multiple of 5? So in other words, is 42 divisible by 5? Well, I can figure it out this way. I can say 5 times 1, 5 times 2, 5 times 3, 5 times 4, 5 times 5, 5 times 6, 5 times 7, 5 times 8, 5 times 9, and I've gone right past it, haven't I? So between 40 and 45, there's no leeway, so this is not going to divide evenly. Now, if you understand divisibility rules, which you'll probably understand divisibility rules as you start to work with fractions more and more, as you get more advanced in math, I know that if this number ends in a number other than a 0 or a 5, it's not going to go in evenly. Numbers that are divisible by 5, look at all of these. 5, 0, 5, 0, 5, 0, 5, 0, 5. The pattern is it's got to end in a 5 or a 0 for this to work, for it to go in evenly, for it to divide evenly. So if it ends in a 2, it's not going to be divisible. I can say that this goes 8 times, but I'm going to have remainder 2. So it's not going to go in evenly. So my answer to this one is going to be yes. Yes, 24 is a multiple of 8. No, 42 is not a multiple of 5. Okay? In other words, finding multiples is just skip counting, pure and simple, right? Okay, now finding the first 12 multiples of a number. So if you're looking at this page with me, find the first 12 multiples of a number. What are the first 12 multiples of 7? Well, it's going to look just like your times table chart. 1 times 7 is 7. 2 times 7 is 14. 3 times 7 is 21. 4 times 7 is 28. 5 times 7 is 35. 6 times 7 is 42. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 7 is 56. 9 times 7 is 63. 10 times 7 is 70. 11 times 7 is 77. 12 times 7 is 84. So I could have found all of that by looking at my row of 7s, right? I have 7, 14, 21. I have all of those listed here on my times table chart. So like I was saying before, you can find these online. You can find different kinds of times table charts. This one is one that I cut off of someone's name tag. Hopefully we'll have enough for everybody if we come back to school this year, that I didn't cut somebody's off. If not, I'll go get them another one. But you can find this kind online. You can also find the kind that looks like this, that has the multiples written out, right? The equations written out. This kind of times table chart can be very helpful as well, right? Because it's showing you all of the multiples. So there are many different versions of times table charts, and you can print one out that's right for you. And if you can't print it out, you can always get a piece of graph paper and make your own. When I taught third grade, many years ago, I would always have kids, I would give them graph paper, and we'd all make our own times table charts. It's pretty easy to do. All right, so 7, 14, 21, 28, all the way to 84 are the first 12 multiples of 7. The first multiple of 7 is 7. The second multiple of 7 is 14. The third multiple is 7 times 3 is 21. 7 is a factor of all the multiples of 7. Just like when you were coloring your sieve of Aristophanes, you found out that numbers that we colored were numbers that have a lot of factors, right? 7 is a factor of all the multiples of 7. 7 is a factor of 7. 7 is a factor of 14. 7 is a factor of 21. All right, so we're going to find the first 5 multiples for each one of the numbers. And I'm going to go like this and turn my paper to the side a little bit. So if you're somebody that struggles with your times tables a little bit, use a times table chart to help you, right? Use a tool. If we're putting a roof on our house, we don't use our hands to hammer in the nails. We use a hammer. So on number 3, it's asking you to do the first 5 multiples of each number. And our first number is 2. So we're going to do the first 5 multiples of 2. 0 does not count. So we're going to look on here on our chart. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And that goes all the way to 5. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Right? If you want to be super thorough, you could go like this and list them out. Right? You can do either, you can do as much as you want. If this is going to help you with your times tables so that you don't have to use this anymore, then go ahead and do it this way. Don't feel shy about putting in a little extra effort. It did not take me that much time. So, and we still get the same answer, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? Okay, let's look at number 4. Number 4, we're also probably going to flip this way. They want us to do all of the multiples of 10, right? So I can take my times table chart. I can look here on the 10s, right? And I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. That's the same thing as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Right? Gives me a little bit of extra times table practice. I didn't use my times tables overly much over the summer, so I'm a little bit rusty, and that's what happens. Your brain, if it's not using something constantly, your brain kind of puts it on the back burner. So I'm writing this because it's good practice for me to remember my times tables when I'm working, when I'm a little bit rusty. All right, let's look at number 5 is 6. So we're going to look at all the multiples of 6. We could do 3, 4, 5. This is 6. You're always going to start out with the number itself. 2 times 6 is 12. 3 times 6 is 18. 4 times 6 is 24. And 5 times 6 is 30. All right, so you can also look on here and look at 6, right? Sorry, I'm hitting some glare. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, right? So this is all this magical chart. It's a division chart, it's a multiplication chart, it's a multiple chart. It can also be a chart for finding factors too. So it's kind of an awesome chart to have. Our last one that we're doing of this type is 6. So we're going to find all the multiples of 8. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3. We just want the first 5 multiples. So I'm just listing them so that I get extra practice. 8, 16, 24, 32. See, I told you I was rusty. 40. Teachers get rusty too. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. Normally I use quite a bit of math over the summer. Math that's related to firing a kiln, math that's related to working and building things out of clay, measuring. I use a lot of geometry, making angles that fit together. And I use a little bit of multiplication, but this summer I did not use too much math, so I'm a little bit rusty. Being under quarantine was not good for my math skill. Okay, number 7, it's asking us, what is the 4th multiple of 7? Well, you know, if you're saying 1 times 7, 2 times 7, 3 times 7, 4 times 7, you know that the multiples, when you're skip counting, you're always going to start out with the number itself, right? So I'm always going to start out with the number itself, which is in this case 7, because I'm multiplying by 1. So that means if I'm asking what is the 4th multiple, that's going to be 4 times the number, right? So the 4th multiple of 7 is going to be 28, is my answer, right? Okay. Remember, if you're not ready for me to flip, this is the good part about a filmed lesson is you can pause me because I'm going to flip. Okay, let's look at number 8. Now it's asking what is the 5th multiple of 7? So if I'm continuing on with, I stopped at 4 times 7. So if I'm continuing on, the 5th multiple of 7 is going to be 5 times 7, which is going to be 35, right? Now, number 9 is asking us for the 12th multiple of 7. So let's just get a little times table practice, and we'll do 8 times 7, 9 times 7, 10 times 7, 11 times 7, 12 times 7. And so if we have, and also if you're not sure to skip count, you can add on your fingers. Just count to 7. That's another way of doing this. So if I have 5 times 7 is 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, right? Is my 7. So I have 42. Oops. 42. Then I have 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56. So my first year teaching, I taught 6th graders, and I taught 6th graders that were really bad at math. I had all of the kids that were failing math in my class. And a lot of them, I had one student who had just figured out how to add using his fingers. And that was amazing. He had learned how to add counting on his fingers. So we did a lot of counting on our fingers with multiplication because he understood how to do that. So if we have 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63. 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70. 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77. 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84. So if you can add on your fingers, you can also multiply on your fingers. because multiplication is just repeated addition. All right, so now we know what multiples are. We know that a multiple is, we can multiply a number by another whole number, and that will give us a multiple, right? So I'm going to write on here, multiples are skip counted numbers. Multiples are skip counting, because most of us know how to skip count, right? So that's the way that I remember multiples. The difference between a multiple and a factor, they're very different. Multiples, you're just skip counting the number. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Those are all the multiples of 2. The factors of 2 are what two numbers multiplied together equal to. That's a very different thing, right? So multiples are kind of easy for us to figure out. They're also good times table practice when we're figuring them out. And they can be found really quickly using a times table chart. All right. I hope that you understand a little bit about what multiples are, and next time when we actually have our lesson during class, we're going to figure out how to use multiples and find common multiples. Okay? So we're going to look for multiples that numbers have in common. All right, so we will do that next time we meet. Thanks for joining me.